Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so what do you recommend is like the best lighting to have for a documentary?
For a documentary, well, lighting is very dependent upon your location. So, if you are outside, probably you'll struggle to take our lights with you because you won't have any source of power. But I would always recommend, if you're filming on location, make sure you have a reflector with you wherever you go. They're very small and compact, they don't take up a lot of space, they're easy to carry. So take that with you, and if you are facing your subject away from the sun, make sure you're filling in from underneath, usually into their eyes, because it makes them look a little bit less angry. So unless you deliberately want them to look angry, use a reflector and try and just fill in that light on their face.
And then if you're like filming indoors, like an interview situation, like what do you recommend is like the best kind of lighting to have?
I would always use a softbox on the subject where possible, because again it gives that kind of soft nature to what they're saying. It makes it seem more important. It helps with the correct skin tone and stuff like that. Sometimes it can look really nice to sit someone next to a window or something like that, and visually that can look quite appealing, but the only difficulty with that is you can't control the light that then comes in through the window, so you might end up with dark shots and light shots, and when it comes to cutting them together you might notice that there's quite a difference between the two. So that's a difficult one. I'd really only recommend doing that if it's either very overcast or there isn't a cloud in the sky, because then you can pretty much guarantee what it's going to be like. Think about the use of lights within a room, existing lights, so table lamps and things like that. Think about how they display. You want to make sure you're not using lights that are too yellowish, because you might end up then with your subjects looking a bit yellow. But again, you can kind of counter a lot of that with white balance anyway. And also think about any room that has fluorescent lights, like the light strips in here. Sometimes they can have an effect on how the camera records, and it can create these wavy lines coming down, and that's due to the shutter speed and then the refresh rate of these lights and how they work. So just got to kind of try it out, see how it looks. So long as you can see your subject very clearly, they look natural, they look comfortable, then you're doing a good job.
What type of shot type would you use during an interview?
I would usually use two cameras, and one of them I would just keep on the interviewee, just to make sure I've always got my safety shot. That's the shot I always go back to, and then the other one I will get some more interesting shots of, if there are items around the room that could be related to the subject. Usually I take deliberate items with me to interviews and place them, and even a bunch of flowers, even if they're not talking about flowers, shooting past them with a variable focal length and using focus pull and camera techniques like that, you can give yourself a much more interesting interview, rather than just a shot like this, which is just a single shot, static, and it's not moving, and I'm right in the centre. In terms of your placement, I would usually place them along one of the thirds. I'd have a mid shot, so head to waist, and I would have them not facing directly to the camera, but at a 45-degree angle to the camera, as though they're talking to me over there, and then I would intersperse that with my B-roll that I've taken on the other camera, get shots of people's hand movements, get shots of, if they move their feet a little bit or anything like that, even just get shots of their shoes. Like, there are so many things that you can kind of just cut in just to make it a little bit more interesting.
And what type of microphone would you recommend for interviews?
Again, it depends where you are. If you're outside, then you will probably want the Rode NTG2 shotgun mic into an H4n with a dead cat on the end, so that you know that you're combating as best you can the potential for wind or outside noises like that. You could also use a lapel mic in that situation with you get a little fluffy head on top of it, a pop shield. or you could, if you're indoors in a situation like this where there's not any sound coming from anywhere else, I would use the H4n, the 2 mics on the front with the pop shield on top of it, and just place it as close as you can to the subject without it being in the shot. Or again, use a lapel mic in this situation into an H4n. If audio quality isn't essential, then I would use the Rode video mic, but for the most part, for documentary type things where you'd expect what's being said to be the most important thing of the whole documentary, even more so than the visuals, you really want good quality audio, you're better off using that H4n with one of either the shotgun mic or the lapel mic.
And like in terms of like montage, when you like film other like things, what like shot types do you recommend like would be the best for like a documentary?
For montage, so kind of cutaways, so you might have information coming up on the screen, or a voiceover giving information or something like that. I would recommend time lapses of, for example, you might have seen from this year's work, both groups went to London, and both documentary groups went to London, and they both shot time lapses of just people passing by, tons of footage like that they could cut to, and then they've put text over the top of it saying, with statistics and figures about whatever their subject is. That can be really effective. Also, shots that are specific to what you're talking about. So, what's your subject for your documentary?
It's more like happiness and like the chase to be happy.
Okay, so maybe shots, try and get some footage of, if you can get families playing together at the park or having a picnic, or, things, typical experiences of when you would expect people to be happy. It's doesn't necessarily line up with the content that you're talking about, but it's stuff that you can cut to that can really kind of add a new layer to it. But just make sure that everything you cut to is in some way relevant. You can also use imagery and text, so you could have a static image that isn't actually a video with text in front of that. But again, when you're looking at those types of images, try and make them as generic as possible while still being relevant to the subject.
How would you best record a voiceover for the documentary?
I would go into the studio, which is above the drama theatre, the theatre over there, because it's got carpeted walls, it's a completely dead room, you go in there and clap and you'll never hear an echo, and I would use that together with the condenser microphones that we have in there directly into the audio interface into Logic, which is the audio editing software that we're about to purchase, because that way you'll know that you've got the crispest sound that you can possibly get. Some students in the past have used the Zoom H4n for voiceovers, but now this year we're trying to really boost the level of audio quality. It's one of our targets this year, is to bring that up to the level of visuals that we already have. So this year I'm really hoping to see more of you using that studio.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.